She saved a dying billionaire's life in front of hundreds, and his cold-hearted son accused her of chasing fame. Naomi Carter didn't need his gratitude, his suspicion, or his $50,000 check. But when the old man insisted she come to their mansion, she walked straight into a world of ice-cold walls, bitter exes, and a man so terrified of love he'd rather destroy it than feel it. What she didn't expect, that her kindness would crack open a heart locked shut for 8 years, or that falling for him would force her to face her deepest fear, not being enough. But here's the twist. Sometimes, the coldest hearts burn the hottest when they finally let someone in. Subscribe and drop a comment telling me if you've ever fought for someone who pushed you away, because this story is about to get messy, beautiful, and absolutely unforgettable. The crystal chandeliers sparkled like diamonds above the crowded ballroom. Naomi Carter smoothed down her black server's vest and balanced the silver tray on her palm. Around her, guests in expensive gowns and tailored suits laughed and sipped champagne. Their jewelry caught the light with every movement. She didn't belong here, not really. But the catering company paid well for charity events, and Naomi needed every dollar. Her nursing aid certification hadn't led to a hospital job yet. So here she was, carrying appetizers through a world that would never be hers. "Miss, more champagne?" A woman with pearl earrings held out an empty glass. "Of course." Naomi smiled and traded the glass for a full one from her tray. The ballroom buzzed with excitement. Tonight's event raised money for heart disease research. Naomi had read about it in the program. The host was Richard Ward, some billionaire who'd made his fortune in real estate. His company built half the skyscrapers in the city. On stage, a silver-haired man in a tuxedo stepped up to the microphone. The crowd hushed. "That's him," whispered Maria, another server. "Richard Ward himself." Naomi watched as Richard smiled at the crowd. He looked healthy, strong. His voice boomed through the speakers as he thanked everyone for coming. Then he stopped mid-sentence. His hand went to his chest. His face twisted. The microphone hit the floor with a screech of feedback. Richard Ward collapsed. For one horrible second, nobody moved. The crowd gasped. Someone screamed. But Naomi's training kicked in before her fear could stop her. She dropped her tray. Glass shattered behind her as she ran toward the stage. Her heart hammered in her chest. She pushed through the frozen crowd, her legs pumping. "Call 911, she shouted. She reached the stage and climbed the steps. Richard lay on his back, his eyes closed. His chest wasn't moving. No time to think. No time to doubt. Naomi dropped to her knees beside him. She tilted his head back, checked his airway. Nothing blocking it. She pressed 2 fingers to his neck. No pulse. "Sir, can you hear me?" She shook his shoulder. Nothing. Her hands found the center of his chest. She locked her elbows and pushed. Hard. Fast. 30 compressions. 1, 2, 3. Keep going. The crowd pressed closer. Phones appeared, recording. Voices shouted questions. Naomi blocked it all out. There was only Richard Ward and the rhythm of CPR. 15, 16, 17. Her arms burned. Sweat dripped down her face. 28, 29, 30. She tilted his head back again, pinched his nose, and gave 2 rescue breaths. Nothing. Back to compressions. Her muscles screamed. "Don't stop, don't stop. Come on," she whispered. "Come on, sir. Stay with me." 30 more compressions. 2 more breaths. She'd just started the 3rd round when Richard's chest heaved. He coughed. His eyes fluttered open. "Thank God." Naomi's voice cracked. She turned him on his side as he coughed again. Sirens wailed outside. The paramedics were coming. Richard's eyes found hers. Confused. Scared. But alive. "You're okay," Naomi told him, her hand on his shoulder. "You're going to be okay. Help is here." The paramedics rushed in with their equipment. Naomi stepped back, her legs shaking. Her hands trembled as the adrenaline drained away. Someone wrapped a jacket around her shoulders. Maria appeared with water. "You saved his life," Maria whispered, eyes wide. Naomi couldn't speak. She watched the paramedics load Richard onto a stretcher. The crowd whispered and pointed. At Richard. At her. She'd just saved a billionaire's life. And somehow, she knew her own life would never be the same. The emergency room smelled like antiseptic and fear. Naomi sat in a plastic chair, still wearing her server's uniform. The hospital had asked her to stay, answer questions. Make sure she was okay. She wasn't okay. Her hands still shook. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Richard Ward's face. Grey, lifeless, but alive now. Because of her. "Miss Carter?" She looked up. A nurse stood there with a clipboard. "Yes?" Mr. Ward is stable. They're moving him to a private room. His son just arrived. The nurse's expression shifted. He's asking for you. Naomi stood. He's awake? The son is asking for you. He wants to speak with you immediately. Something in the nurse's tone made Naomi's stomach tighten. She followed through the white corridors, past machines that beeped and buzzed. They stopped outside a room. Through the window, Naomi could see Richard Ward in the bed, oxygen tubes in his nose. Doctors surrounded him. But standing in the hallway was a man who made Naomi forget how to breathe. Tall, broad shoulders in an expensive black suit, dark hair, sharp jawline, and eyes like ice, cold blue and hard. Those eyes locked on her. You, his voice cut through the hospital noise, you're the one who touched my father. Touched? Naomi blinked. I performed CPR. He wasn't breathing. Do you have any idea what you've done? He moved closer. Too close. She could smell his cologne, something expensive and sharp. You could have injured him. Broken ribs. Caused internal bleeding. Who gave you permission to touch him? Heat flooded Naomi's face. Permission? He was dying. You're not a doctor. His words came out clipped. Controlled. You're a server. You had no right. I'm a certified nursing aide. Naomi's voice rose. Around them, people turned to stare. She didn't care. Your father had no pulse. No heartbeat. I did what I was trained to do. I saved his life. The man's jaw clenched. Or you wanted attention. Wanted to be the hero. Wanted... Mr. Ward. A doctor emerged from Richard's room. Your father is asking for you. And for the young woman who helped him. The son, this had to be Ethan Ward, stared at Naomi for another long moment. Then he turned and walked into the room. Naomi's legs felt weak. She wanted to leave, to run, but the doctor gestured for her to follow. Inside the room, Richard Ward was awake, pale and weak, but his eyes were clear. When he saw Naomi, his face transformed. You, his voice came out hoarse. Come here, child. Naomi moved to his bedside. Ethan stood on the other side, watching her like she might steal the IV. Richard reached out a shaking hand. Naomi took it. Thank you. Tears shone in his eyes. The doctors said, if you hadn't acted so fast. He couldn't finish. He just squeezed her hand. Thank you. I'm glad you're okay. Naomi's throat felt tight. Richard turned to his son. Ethan, did you thank her? Ethan's expression didn't change. We need to verify what happened. Make sure. Thank her. Richard's voice gained strength. She saved my life. I don't care about protocol. I care that I'm alive to see tomorrow because this young woman was brave. The silence stretched. Finally, Ethan spoke. Thank you. The words sounded forced, empty. For your assistance. Naomi pulled her hand from Richard's. I should go. You need to rest, Mr. Ward. Wait. Richard tried to sit up. A nurse gently pushed him back down. I want to do something for you. A reward. Anything you need. I don't need a reward. Naomi stepped back. I'm just glad you're okay. She left before anyone could stop her. In the hallway, she pressed her back against the cool wall and closed her eyes. What had just happened? She'd saved a man's life, and his son treated her like a criminal. Maria was waiting in the lobby. They drove home in silence. Naomi stared out the window at the city lights. When her phone buzzed later that night, she almost didn't check it. But curiosity won. A news alert. Video footage from the gala. There she was, running toward the stage, kneeling beside Richard Ward, performing CPR while hundreds watched. The headline read, Mystery Server Saves Billionaire's Life at Charity Gala. Naomi groaned and put the phone away. This was going to get worse before it got better. 3 days later, a black car pulled up outside Naomi's apartment building. She was leaving for work when she saw it. Sleek, expensive, completely out of place on her street where cars had rust spots and bumper stickers. The back door opened. Ethan Ward stepped out. Naomi froze on the sidewalk. He looked different in daylight, still cold, still handsome in a way that made her angry, but tired too. Dark circles under his eyes. Miss Carter. He walked toward her. I need to speak with you. I'm late for work. This won't take long. He pulled an envelope from his jacket. My father insisted I deliver this personally. Naomi stared at the envelope. What is it? A check for saving his life. Ethan held it out. $50,000. The number hit her like a slap. 50,000? That was more than she made in a year, more than she'd ever seen in one place. But something about the way Ethan offered it, like he was paying off a debt, cold and businesslike, made her stomach turn. I don't want it. The words came out before she could think. Ethan blinked. For the first time, his mask cracked. "Excuse me?" I said no. Naomi pushed the envelope back toward him. "I didn't save your father for money. I did it because he was dying and I could help. Everyone wants something." Ethan's eyes narrowed. "Name your price, 100,000? More? You think I'm lying?" Anger flared hot in Naomi's chest. "You think I'm playing some game? I don't want your money, Mr. Ward. I want you to leave me alone." She turned to walk away. "My father wants to see you." Naomi stopped. Slowly, she turned back. "What?" "He's being released from the hospital today. He asked me to invite you to the house. To thank you properly." Ethan's voice was flat, emotionless. "I told him it wasn't necessary, but he insisted." "Then tell him thank you, but he's not well." The words came out sharper. "The doctors said he needs rest, low stress. But he won't stop talking about you, won't rest until he sees you again." Ethan's jaw clenched. "So I'm asking, please, one visit, then you can go back to your life, and we'll go back to ours." There it was, the real message. "You don't belong in our world." Naomi wanted to say no, wanted to tell Ethan Ward exactly what she thought of him, but Richard had been kind, grateful, and if seeing her would help him rest, fine. She crossed her arms. "One visit. When?" "This Saturday, 2 o'clock. Ethan pulled out a business card and a pen, scribbling an address. "The estate is outside the city. I'll send a car. I can drive myself. The gate requires a code." He held out the card. "The car will be easier." Naomi took the card without touching his fingers. "Saturday, 2 o'clock, then we're done." "Agreed." Ethan walked back to his car. Before getting in, he paused. "My father is a good man, Miss Carter, but he's naive sometimes. He sees the best in people." His ice blue eyes met hers. "I don't have that luxury." The car door closed. The engine purred. And Ethan Ward drove away, leaving Naomi standing on the sidewalk with a business card and a growing sense that she'd just agreed to something dangerous. Saturday arrived too fast. Naomi stood in front of her closet, staring at her clothes. What did you wear to a billionaire's estate? Everything she owned suddenly looked cheap, worn. "Stop it." She grabbed a simple blue dress. Nothing fancy, but clean and neat. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. The black car arrived exactly at 1:30. The driver was polite, opening the door for her. Naomi sank into leather seats softer than her bed. They drove out of the city, past suburbs, into areas where houses sat behind tall gates and long driveways, each one bigger than the last. Then they turned onto a private road. Naomi's breath caught. The Ward estate wasn't just a house. It was a mansion. 3 stories of pale stone and huge windows. Gardens stretched in every direction, perfectly maintained. A fountain sparkled in the circular driveway. "We're here, miss." The driver opened her door. Naomi stepped out onto stone pavers. Her shoes clicked as she walked toward the massive front door. It opened before she could knock. Ethan stood there, watching her. He'd traded his suit for dark jeans and a grey sweater. Somehow that made him look more intimidating, not less. "Miss Carter." "You came." "I said I would." He stepped aside. "My father is in the sitting room. This way." Naomi followed him through an entrance hall that could fit her entire apartment. Marble floors, a chandelier that probably cost more than a car, paintings on the walls that looked old, important. She felt like a fraud. They passed a formal dining room, a library with shelves reaching the ceiling, another room with a piano. Finally, Ethan opened a door to a smaller, warmer space. Richard Ward sat in an armchair by a fireplace. He looked better than he had in the hospital, color in his cheeks, a blanket over his lap. When he saw Naomi, his whole face lit up. "My dear girl." He started to stand. "Please don't get up." Naomi hurried over. "You should rest." "I've been resting for 3 days. I'm tired of resting." But he settled back into the chair, patting the seat beside him. "Sit. Please let me look at you." Naomi sat. Up close, she could see how fragile Richard still was. His hands shook slightly, but his eyes were warm and kind. "I can't thank you enough," Richard said. "The doctors told me what you did, how you acted so quickly, so bravely. You saved my life. I'm just glad you're okay, Mr. Ward." "Richard, please, call me Richard." He took her hand in both of his. "Tell me about yourself. Ethan said you're a nursing aide?" "I am. Well, I'm certified. I'm working on getting a hospital position, but..." She shrugged. "It takes time." "Where did you learn CPR?" "Part of my training. But I also volunteered at a community center, teaching basic first aid." Naomi smiled at the memory. "We wanted to make sure people in the neighborhood knew what to do in an emergency." Richard's eyes softened. "That's beautiful work. Important work." They talked for an hour. Richard asked about her family, just her mom and her cousin Clara, both living across town, about her favorite foods, her hobbies, what she did for fun. Simple questions, but he listened like every word mattered. Ethan stood by the fireplace the entire time, silent, watching. Finally, a woman in a staff uniform appeared. "Mr. Ward, it's time for your medication, and dinner will be ready soon." "Already?" Richard looked disappointed. Then he brightened. "You'll stay for dinner, won't you?" "Oh, I couldn't. Please." Richard squeezed her hand. "It would mean so much to me. Ethan, tell her she must stay." Ethan's expression didn't change. "You're welcome to stay for dinner, Miss Carter." The words were polite. His tone said he hoped she'd refuse. That decided it. "I'd love to." Naomi smiled at Richard. "Thank you." Dinner was served in a smaller dining room, not the formal one she'd seen. Still, the table could seat 12 easily. Crystal glasses, china plates with gold trim. Naomi picked up her fork carefully, trying not to break anything. Richard sat at the head of the table, Ethan to his right, Naomi to his left. The food was amazing. Roasted chicken, vegetables she couldn't name, bread that melted in her mouth. "Tell me more about your childhood," Richard said between bites. "Where did you grow up?" "South side of the city." Naomi knew what that meant to people like them. Rough neighborhood, poor. "Just me and my mom until I was 10. Then she got sick, and my cousin Clara's family took me in." "Your mother?" Richard's face filled with concern. "Is she all right now?" "She is. It took a few years, but she recovered. We're close now." Naomi smiled. "She's proud I became a nursing aide. Says I get my caring nature from her. She sounds wonderful." Across the table, Ethan cut his chicken with sharp, precise movements. He hadn't said a word since they sat down. "Ethan, you're being rude." Richard gave his son a look. "Naomi is our guest." "I'm aware." Ethan's voice was cold. "I'm simply letting you two talk. You're sulking." Richard turned to Naomi. "He's been like this since he was a boy, silent and brooding when he doesn't get his way." A hint of red touched Ethan's cheeks. "Father, I'm old and sick. I can say what I want." Richard winked at Naomi. One of the few benefits of almost dying. Despite everything, Naomi laughed. After dinner, Richard insisted on showing her his garden. Ethan followed a few steps behind as they walked slowly through the paths lined with flowers. "My wife planted most of these," Richard said, gesturing to rose bushes. "She loved working out here. After she passed, I kept it going for her." "It's beautiful," Naomi said honestly. "She had good taste." "She did." Richard stopped by a bench and sat down heavily. "In everything, including our son." Ethan moved closer. "Father, you should rest." "I'm resting right now, on a bench, in my own garden." Richard looked up at his son with affection and frustration mixed together. "He worries too much. Ever since his mother died, he thinks he has to protect everyone, including me. Someone needs to." Ethan's words came out tight. Richard sighed. Then he looked at Naomi. His expression grew serious. "Don't give up on him," he said quietly. "I know he's been cold to you, suspicious, but he's not a bad man. He's just scared." "Father, let me finish." Richard kept his eyes on Naomi. "He needs someone like you, someone real, someone who doesn't want anything from him except kindness." He reached out and patted her hand. "Someone who sees past the walls he's built." Naomi didn't know what to say. She could feel Ethan staring at her, his presence like electricity in the air. "I should go," she said finally. "It's getting late. Promise you'll visit again." Richard gripped her hand. "Please. You've brought more light into this house in 3 hours than we've had in years." Naomi looked at Ethan. His face was unreadable. "I'll think about it. That's all I ask." Ethan walked her to the front door in silence. The driver was already waiting. Naomi paused before leaving. "So your father is a good man." "I know." Ethan's voice was quiet, tired. "He loves you very much." "I know that too." Ethan looked at her finally. Really looked at her. For just a moment, the ice in his eyes melted. She saw something else there. Something lost. But love doesn't stop people from getting hurt. Before Naomi could respond, he opened the door. "Good night, Miss Carter." She walked to the car, feeling his eyes on her the whole way. As they drove back toward the city, Naomi leaned her head against the window. She should forget about Ethan Ward and his cold words. Should focus on her own life, her own problems. But Richard's voice echoed in her mind. Don't give up on him. And somehow, despite everything, Naomi knew she wouldn't. 3 days passed before Naomi's phone rang, with an unknown number. She was folding laundry in her apartment when she answered. "Hello? Miss Carter, this is Adrian Mills. I'm Mr. Richard Ward's attorney. Naomi sat down on the couch. Is something wrong? Is Richard okay? He's fine. Actually, he's being stubborn. A smile touched the man's voice. He wants to hire you as his personal care assistant during his recovery. He refuses to accept anyone else. Hire me? Naomi's mind raced. But I have a job, and I'm not a full nurse. He doesn't need a full nurse. The doctors say he needs someone to help with daily activities, encourage light exercise, monitor his diet. Things a nursing aide is perfectly qualified for. Adrian paused. He's offering very competitive pay, and it would only be for a few weeks, until he's stronger. Naomi closed her eyes. She could use the money. Her catering shifts barely covered rent, and Richard had been so kind to her. But Ethan, does Ethan know about this? Mr. Ethan Ward has been informed, yes. That wasn't really an answer. And what does he think? Adrian was quiet for a moment. He thinks his father should hire a professional from an agency, but Richard insists it must be you. Of course he did. Naomi smiled despite herself. Can I think about it? Certainly. Richard hopes to hear from you soon, though. He's driving the staff crazy asking if you've called. After they hung up, Naomi stared at her phone. This was a terrible idea. Ethan clearly didn't want her around, didn't trust her. Working at his house would be awkward at best, hostile at worst. But Richard needed help, and something about the old man had touched her heart. She called Clara. You're seriously considering this? Her cousin's voice rose. Naomi, that man accused you of looking for attention. His son did, not Richard. Same family, Clara groaned. Why do you always do this? Always put yourself in situations where people can hurt you. Richard won't hurt me, he's sweet. And the son? Naomi didn't have an answer for that. She called Adrian back the next morning and said yes. Her first official day at the Ward estate started at 9 a.m. The same driver picked her up. This time, Naomi brought a bag with comfortable clothes, sneakers for walking, and a notebook to track Richard's progress. Ethan met her at the door again. He wore dark slacks and a white button-down, sleeves rolled to his elbows. Professional but casual. It shouldn't have been attractive. It was. Miss Carter. His voice was neutral, carefully controlled. My father is in the breakfast room. Before you see him, we need to establish some ground rules. Ground rules? Naomi shifted her bag to her other shoulder. My father's health is my priority. That means following the doctor's orders exactly. No deviation. I wouldn't. He's going to try to do more than he should. Walk too far. Skip his medication. Eat foods he shouldn't have. Ethan's eyes were hard. Your job is to prevent that, even if he argues, even if he gets upset with you. I understand. And, Ethan paused, if you see anything concerning, anything at all, you come to me immediately, not the staff, not anyone else. Me. There was something underneath his words. Fear, maybe. Real, raw fear that he was trying to hide behind coldness. I will, Naomi said softly. I promise. Ethan studied her face, then nodded once. This way. The breakfast room was smaller than the formal dining room, with windows overlooking the garden. Richard sat at a table loaded with food, eggs, toast, fresh fruit, juice. Naomi! His face broke into a huge smile. You came. I told Ethan you would, but he didn't believe me. I said I'd think about it. Naomi sat across from him, smiling. And I decided helping you sounded better than serving appetizers at parties. Richard laughed. It was a wonderful sound, rich and warm. I'm so glad. Ethan, sit down. Have breakfast with us. I have work. Ethan was already moving toward the door. You always have work. Richard's voice carried a note of sadness. When was the last time you sat down for a meal? I ate yesterday. At your desk, staring at a computer. Richard looked at Naomi. He works too much. Always has. I keep telling him life is more than business meetings and contracts. Ethan's jaw tightened. Someone has to run the company, and you do it brilliantly. But you're 32 years old. You should be living, not just working. Richard reached for his coffee. When I was your age, I had you, had your mother. We went to movies, took vacations, spent time with friends. Times were different then. People weren't. Richard's eyes were sad. Your mother wouldn't want this for you, son. This loneliness you've wrapped yourself in. The air went cold. Ethan stood frozen in the doorway, his back rigid. I'll be in my study, he said quietly. Then he left. Richard sighed. I shouldn't push him, but I worry. How long has it been? Naomi asked gently. Since his mother passed. 8 years. Cancer. Richard's hands trembled slightly around his coffee cup. She fought hard. We all did. But in the end, he shook his head. Ethan was 24. just starting to really take over the business. After she died, he threw himself into work, never stopped, never grieved properly. I'm sorry. Me too. Richard set down his cup. Now, enough sadness. Tell me what the doctors said I need to do. I want to follow their orders. Mostly. Naomi smiled. Mostly? I'm old, not dead. I reserve the right to cheat occasionally. They spent the morning going over Richard's care plan. Short walks, healthy meals, medications at specific times, plenty of rest. Richard listened carefully, asked good questions, and only complained a little when Naomi said no to bacon. After lunch, they walked in the garden. Slowly. Richard's breathing was still labored after just a few minutes. I used to walk for an hour every morning, he said, frustrated. Now I can barely make it around the roses. You will again. Your heart needs time to heal. They sat on the same bench where they'd talked during her first visit. The sun was warm on Naomi's face. Birds sang in the trees. Can I ask you something? Richard's voice was careful. Why did you agree to help me? Ethan told me he was unwelcoming when you first met. That's a polite way to put it. Richard's mouth quirked. He said you refused his money. That surprised him. Surprised me too, honestly. Naomi pulled a leaf off a nearby bush, turning it over in her fingers. I didn't save your life to get paid. I did it because you needed help, and I could give it. She looked at Richard. Money makes things complicated. I didn't want that between us. You're remarkable. Richard's voice was thick with emotion. Do you know that? I'm really not. I'm just normal. Normal people don't run toward danger. Normal people don't refuse $50,000. Richard reached over and patted her hand. You're special, Naomi. I knew it the moment I woke up and saw your face. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Richard spoke again. He watches you, you know. Naomi's heart skipped. What? Ethan. When you're here. He pretends he's not, but I see him. Richard smiled. This morning at breakfast. He stood in that doorway for a full minute before he spoke, just watching you talk. He doesn't trust me. No, he doesn't trust anyone. Richard's smile faded. After his mother died, women started circling. They saw a wealthy, handsome young man with a broken heart. They thought they could fix him, or marry him, or both. That's awful. It taught him to see everyone as a threat, as someone who wants something from him. Richard looked at her intently. But you're different. You already proved you don't want his money, and you're here for me, not him. That scares him more than anything. Why would that scare him? Because it means you might be real. Richard's voice dropped to almost a whisper. And if you're real, then he might have to feel something. And feeling means risk. Ethan hasn't allowed himself to risk anything personal in 8 years. Naomi didn't know what to say to that, didn't know what to do with the weight of Richard's words. A sound made her look up. Ethan stood on the terrace, phone pressed to his ear, but his eyes were on them, on her. Their gazes met across the garden. Naomi's breath caught. Even from this distance, the intensity in his eyes made her skin tingle. Then Ethan turned away, disappearing back into the house. See, Richard said softly. He watches. The days fell into a routine. Naomi arrived at 9. She and Richard had breakfast together. Ethan always had work to do. They'd walk in the garden, getting a little farther each day. Lunch was usually quiet, sometimes with Richard telling stories about building his company, about Ethan as a boy, about his late wife, Margaret. Afternoons, Richard napped. Naomi used that time to update his care log, track his medications, prepare healthy snacks. And sometimes she'd see Ethan. He'd walk past the sitting room where she was reading, stop in the kitchen when she was making tea, appear in the garden when she was waiting for Richard to wake from his nap. He never spoke much. A nod. Quiet, Miss Carter. Once, is my father eating properly? But he was there, watching, always watching. On Thursday of her second week, Naomi was in the kitchen helping Richard's cook, Maria, prepare dinner. They were laughing about something. Maria had been telling a story about her grandson. When Ethan walked in, both women went quiet. Don't stop on my account. Ethan moved to the coffee maker. It's nice to hear laughter in this house. Maria glanced at Naomi, eyebrows raised, then made herself busy with the vegetables. Naomi watched Ethan make his coffee. His movements were precise, controlled. Everything about him was controlled. Richard's blood pressure is down, she said. The doctor will be pleased. I know, I reviewed your notes. You read my notes? Every day. Ethan turned to face her, coffee cup in hand. You're very thorough, detailed. That's my job. Yes. He took a sip. You're good at it. My father is improving. The doctor confirmed it yesterday. Was that a compliment? Naomi wasn't sure how to respond. He makes it easy, she said finally. He wants to get better. Thanks to you. Ethan's voice was softer than she'd ever heard it. He was depressed after the hospital, withdrawn, but since you've been here, he trailed off, looking into his coffee. He's different, happier. He just needed someone to care. He has a staff of 12 people who care. That's not the same. They work for him. Naomi stopped. You what? Ethan's eyes lifted to hers, intense, searching. I care about him, Naomi said quietly. Not as an employee, as a person. He's kind and funny and warm. He makes me feel, she struggled for the words, like I matter. Something flickered in Ethan's expression. Pain, maybe, or longing. He has that effect on people, Ethan said. My mother used to say he could make friends with a stone. This was the first time Ethan had mentioned his mother to her. Naomi took a careful step closer. What was she like? Ethan was quiet for so long, Naomi thought he wouldn't answer. Then, like sunshine. That sounds ridiculous, but it's true. She lit up every room, made everyone feel special. His voice roughened. When she died, it felt like the world went dark. I'm so sorry. She would have liked you. The words came out almost against his will. Ethan looked surprised he'd said them. He set down his coffee cup quickly. I should get back to work. He left before Naomi could respond. Maria turned from the stove, eyes wide. In 5 years working in this house, I've never heard him talk about his mother. Not once. Naomi's heart beat faster. Really? Really? Maria pointed her wooden spoon at Naomi. You're getting through to him. Both of them. I'm not trying to get through to anyone. I'm just doing my job. Maria's smile was knowing. Keep telling yourself that, Mija. That night, Naomi was in the sitting room reading beside Richard's chair. He'd dozed off an hour ago, but she didn't want to leave him alone. His breathing was steady, peaceful. The book in her lap was one she'd borrowed from the library, a romance novel about a teacher and a mechanic. Simple, sweet, the kind of story where you knew everything would work out. She heard footsteps, looked up. Ethan stood in the doorway, briefcase in hand. He must have just gotten home from the office. He stared at her and his sleeping father. His expression was unreadable. Has he been asleep long? Ethan's voice was barely above a whisper. About an hour. He had a good day, walked twice as far as yesterday. Ethan nodded. He moved into the room quietly, setting his briefcase down. He stood looking at his father, and the expression on his face made Naomi's throat tight. Love. Pure, fierce love, mixed with fear. He looks peaceful, Ethan said softly. He is. When I got the call that night, at the gala, Ethan's voice was strained. They said he'd collapsed, no heartbeat. I thought, he stopped, swallowing hard. I thought I'd lost him, that I'd wasted so much time being busy, being distant, and now it was too late. But it wasn't, Naomi said gently. He's here. He's okay. Because of you. Ethan finally looked at her. His eyes were raw, vulnerable. I owe you his life. And I've been cruel to you, suspicious, cold. You were protecting him. I was protecting myself. The admission seemed to cost him. It's easier to push people away, to assume the worst. Then you can't be disappointed. Richard stirred in his sleep, murmuring something. Both Ethan and Naomi froze, but he settled again, breathing deep. He talks about you constantly, Ethan said, his voice still low. Naomi said this. Naomi did that. You've made him happy in a way I haven't been able to in years. That's not true. He loves you so much. But he can't talk to me, not really. I'm too closed off, too... Ethan ran a hand through his hair, frustration in every line of his body. I don't know how to be open anymore, how to let people in. Naomi set her book aside carefully. Maybe you start small, one person at a time, and if they hurt you, then you heal and try again. Ethan laughed, but it was a bitter sound. You make it sound simple. It's not simple, it's terrifying. Naomi stood, moving closer. But the alternative is living behind walls forever. Safe, but alone. Ethan stared at her. Something shifted in his eyes. The ice began to crack. You're pulling down my walls, he said quietly. I can feel it happening, and I don't know how to stop it. Maybe you're not supposed to stop it. The air between them felt charged, electric. Naomi's heart pounded. She was close enough to see the gold flecks in Ethan's blue eyes, close enough to smell his cologne, faint and expensive. Richard snorted in his sleep, shifting position. The spell broke. Ethan stepped back. I should let you go, he said, his voice returning to its usual control. It's late. Right, yes. Naomi grabbed her book, fumbling it. I'll see you tomorrow. She hurried toward the door, but as she passed Ethan, he spoke again. Naomi. She stopped. He'd never used her first name before. Thank you for everything. His voice was sincere, real, no coldness, no ice. Naomi looked back at him. You're welcome, Ethan. His name on her lips felt dangerous, intimate. She left before she could do something stupid, like stay. The next morning, everything was different. Ethan joined them for breakfast. Richard's shock was almost comical. You're sitting down for a meal? Who are you and what have you done with my son? I thought I'd take your advice, Ethan said calmly, spreading butter on his toast. About living more, working less. Richard's eyes gleamed with hope. Well, this is wonderful. Isn't this wonderful, Naomi? It's nice. Naomi tried to keep her voice normal, tried not to stare at Ethan across the table. He'd dressed more casually today, a navy sweater, jeans. His hair was slightly messy, like he'd run his fingers through it. He looked younger, less intimidating, more human. So, Richard said, clearly trying to encourage conversation, Ethan, why don't you tell Naomi about the new hospital wing you're funding? Father, it's a wonderful project. He's donating $10 million to build a new cardiac unit. Richard beamed at his son. In honor of the staff who saved my life. Naomi looked at Ethan, surprised. That's incredible. Ethan shrugged. It's just money. It's not just money, it's lives. Naomi felt warmth bloom in her chest. That unit will help so many people. That's the idea. Ethan's eyes met hers. Something passed between them. Understanding, maybe. Connection. Richard watched them both with barely concealed delight. After breakfast, Richard announced he needed to make some phone calls. Business things. Boring. You two don't need to hover over me every second. But, Naomi started, I'll be in my study. I'll call if I need anything. Richard was already heading for the door. Ethan, why don't you show Naomi the lake? She hasn't seen it yet. Father. The lake, Ethan. Fresh air will do you both good. He left before either of them could argue. Naomi and Ethan stood in the breakfast room suddenly alone. He's not subtle, Ethan said. No, he's really not. Naomi bit back a smile. You don't have to show me anything. I'm sure you have work. I do. Ethan surprised her by walking to the coat closet. But he's right. Fresh air sounds good. They walked through the garden in silence. The morning was cool but sunny. Perfect. The path led downhill toward a stretch of woods. Through the trees, Naomi caught glimpses of water sparkling. I used to play here as a kid, Ethan said suddenly. Built forts in the trees. Pretended to be an explorer. Hard to imagine you as a kid. His mouth quirked, almost a smile. I was. Once. A long time ago. They emerged from the trees onto a small beach. A lake stretched before them, calm and blue. A dock extended into the water. It's beautiful, Naomi breathed. My mother loved it here. We used to have picnics on the dock. She'd read to me while my father fished. Ethan's voice was distant, lost in memory. I haven't been down here in years. Why not? Too many memories. He picked up a flat stone and skipped it across the water. 1, 2, 3 skips before it sank. It hurt too much. Naomi found her own stone, tried to skip it. It plopped into the water immediately. Ethan laughed. Actually laughed. The sound was rusty, like he was out of practice, but genuine. That was terrible, he said. I've never done it before, Naomi protested, but she was smiling. Here, Ethan moved behind her. You need to flick your wrist like this. He guided her arm through the motion. His chest was warm against her back. His hand around her wrist sent electricity up her arm. See? His breath stirred her hair. The angle matters. Naomi couldn't breathe, couldn't think. She was too aware of him. His height, his strength, the way he smelled like coffee and something spicy. Try again, he said softly. He stepped back, leaving her cold. Naomi picked up another stone with trembling fingers. This time, it skipped. Twice. Better. She spun around, grinning. Ethan was watching her with an expression she couldn't read. Intense. Hungry. What? She asked. Nothing. He looked away. You're different from anyone I've ever met. Different how? You smile so easily, laugh, enjoy simple things. He turned back to her. You're not trying to be anything you're not. You're just yourself. Is that bad? No. His voice dropped. It's terrifying, because I don't know what to do with someone who's real. They stood facing each other on the beach. The water lapped gently. Birds called. You could try trusting me, Naomi said. As a start. I don't trust easily. I know, but maybe... She took a small step closer. Maybe you could try. Ethan's eyes searched her face, looking for lies, for ulterior motives, for anything that would confirm his fears. He wouldn't find them, because they weren't there. "Why are you here?" he asked finally. "Really? Why did you agree to help my father? I told you—" "Tell me again, I need to hear it." Naomi took a breath. "Because he's kind. Because he reminds me of my grandfather, who died when I was 12. Because when I'm with him, I feel like I'm making a difference." She held Ethan's gaze. "And maybe because he asked me not to give up on you." Ethan went very still. "He what?" "That first day, he asked me not to give up on you. He said you needed someone who was real, and you came back anyway, after how I treated you." "Yes." "Why?" "Because I think he's right." Naomi's voice was soft but steady. "I think underneath all that ice there's someone who's scared and lonely. Someone who wants to let people in but doesn't know how anymore." Ethan's jaw clenched. "You don't know me." "No, but I'd like to." The words hung in the air between them. A challenge, an invitation, a risk. Ethan stared at her. Then slowly he reached out. His fingers brushed her cheek, so gentle it was almost not there. "You scare me," he whispered. "More than anything has scared me in years." "Good," Naomi said. "That means you're feeling something." His hand dropped. He stepped back, breaking the moment. "We should head back, check on my father." But as they walked up the path, Ethan's hand brushed hers. Once, twice. The third time, Naomi caught his fingers in hers. He didn't pull away. They walked back to the house hand in hand, not speaking, not needing to. Something had shifted. The walls were cracking, and neither of them knew if that was wonderful or terrifying. Maybe it was both. The next 2 weeks felt like a dream. Ethan started joining them for breakfast every morning, sometimes lunch too. He asked Naomi questions about her life, her work, her dreams. He listened when she talked, really listened, like every word mattered, and he smiled more. Not often, not easily, but when he did, it transformed his whole face. Richard watched it all with barely hidden joy. "I haven't seen him this relaxed in years," he told Naomi one afternoon while they walked. His strength was returning daily. They could make it all the way around the garden now without him getting winded. "You're good for him. We're just getting to know each other." "Mm-hmm." Richard's eyes twinkled. "Is that what the kids are calling it these days?" Naomi felt her cheeks heat. "Richard, I'm old, not blind." He patted her arm. "And I'm happy, for both of you." That evening, Naomi stayed late. Richard had fallen asleep in his chair again after dinner. She didn't want to wake him, so she sat reading, the lamp casting warm light over the pages. She heard Ethan before she saw him. Footsteps in the hall. He appeared in the doorway, tie loosened, sleeves rolled up. He looked tired but content. "Still here?" His voice was soft, so as not to wake his father. "He's comfortable. I didn't want to move him." Ethan moved into the room, standing behind Richard's chair. He rested his hand on his father's shoulder, his expression tender. "Thank you," he said, "for caring for him, for making him happy. It's easy to care for him. And me?" Ethan's eyes found hers across the dim room. "Is it easy to care for me?" Naomi's heart skipped. "That's different." "How?" "Because—" She set down her book. "Because you're complicated, guarded, sometimes warm, sometimes cold. You keep me off balance." "Is that bad?" "I don't know yet." Ethan moved around the chair, closer to her. "What do you need to know?" "Everything," Naomi thought. But she said, "Why you push people away? What you're really afraid of?" He sat down on the couch beside her, not too close, but close enough that she could feel his warmth. "When my mother was sick," he said quietly, "people came out of nowhere, distant relatives we hadn't heard from in years, old family friends. Everyone wanted to help." His voice hardened. "But they weren't helping. They were positioning themselves, hoping to benefit from her will, from my father's grief. That's awful. It taught me a lesson. People want things. Money, status, connection to wealth." He looked at her. "I learned to see through them, to keep them at a distance. But that must be lonely. It's safe. Those aren't the same thing." Naomi shifted to face him. "You can be safe and still let people close, the right people. How do you know who the right people are? You take a risk. You trust." She paused. "Has anyone ever told you about my childhood?" Ethan shook his head. "When I was 8, my mom got sick. Really sick. She couldn't work, couldn't take care of me properly." Naomi's throat tightened at the memory. "I went to live with my cousin Clara's family. They didn't have much money. Taking me in made things harder for them. But they did it anyway." "Yes, because that's what family does, what good people do." Naomi met his eyes. "I spent 2 years feeling like a burden, like I didn't belong, like I had to earn my place by being perfect, by never asking for anything. That's too much for a child to carry. It shaped me, though, made me afraid of needing people, of asking for help. She smiled sadly. It took me years to realize that letting people help you isn't weakness. It's trust, and trust is how we connect. Ethan was quiet for a long moment. Is that why you refused my money? Because you didn't want to owe us anything? Partly, but also because, she struggled for the words, because I wanted whatever happened between us to be real, not transactional. Between us? His voice dropped. You think something could happen between us? Naomi's pulse raced. I don't know. Could it? Ethan reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. His fingers traced her jaw, gentle as breath. I think it already is, he whispered. Richard snored softly in his chair, oblivious. Ethan's thumb brushed Naomi's cheek. His eyes were dark, intense. No ice now, only heat. I should go, Naomi breathed, but she didn't move. Yes, Ethan agreed. But his hand stayed on her face, warm and sure. They sat frozen like that, the air thick between them. Naomi could hear her own heartbeat, could feel the pull between them, stronger than gravity. Ethan leaned closer. So did she. Then Richard shifted in his chair and they both jerked back. Tomorrow, Ethan said, his voice rough. Come early tomorrow, before breakfast. I want to show you something. What? You'll see. Naomi arrived at 8 the next morning, her stomach full of butterflies. Ethan met her at the door, dressed in jeans and a dark sweater. Casual, devastating. Come on. He grabbed a basket from the kitchen. We don't have much time before my father wakes up. They walked down to the lake together. Morning mist hung over the water, soft and magical. The dock was wet with dew. Sit. Ethan gestured to the end of the dock. Naomi sat, legs dangling over the edge. Ethan settled beside her and opened the basket. Inside were pastries, fruit, coffee in a thermos. You made breakfast. Maria made it. I just carried it. He poured coffee into 2 cups. But I thought of it. That counts for something. Naomi laughed. It counts for a lot. They ate in comfortable silence, watching the sun burn away the mist. Birds sang. Water lapped against the dock posts. I used to come here when I was sad, Ethan said eventually. After my mother died, I'd sit right here and try to remember what her voice sounded like, what her laugh sounded like. He stared at the water. Every year it gets a little harder to remember. I'm sorry. She would have liked you. He glanced at Naomi. She always said I needed someone who would challenge me, someone who wouldn't let me hide. Am I challenging you? Every single day. But he smiled when he said it. You make me want to be better, less afraid, more open. You're already getting there. Because of you. Naomi's breath caught. The way he was looking at her, like she was the only thing in the world that mattered. Ethan, can I tell you something? He set down his coffee cup. That night at the hospital, when I accused you of wanting attention, I was terrified. Of me. Of losing my father, of being alone again. He turned to face her fully. I lashed out at you because you were there. Because you'd saved him when I couldn't. Because you were a reminder that I'm not in control of everything, no matter how hard I try. Nobody can control everything. I know that now. His hand found hers, fingers intertwining. You've taught me that, and so many other things. Like what? Like how to laugh again, how to see the small joys in life, how to let someone past my walls. He brought her hand to his lips, kissing her knuckles softly. How to feel. Tears stung Naomi's eyes. Ethan, I'm falling for you, Naomi. The words came out rough like they hurt. I've been fighting it, telling myself it's too fast, too risky, too dangerous, but I can't fight it anymore. Her heart soared and terrified her in equal measure. I'm scared too. Of what? Of this being temporary, of your world and mine being too different, of, she swallowed hard, of not being enough. Not being enough? Ethan's voice rose with disbelief. Naomi, you're everything. You're kind and brave and real. You saved my father's life. You brought light back into this house, into me. He cupped her face with both hands. You are more than enough. You're perfect. I'm not perfect. You're perfect for me. And then he kissed her. Soft at first. Tentative, like he was afraid she might disappear. But Naomi kissed him back and the kiss deepened, became urgent, real. His arms wrapped around her. She buried her fingers in his hair. The world fell away until there was nothing but this. Nothing but him. Nothing but the feeling of coming home to a place she'd never been. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Ethan rested his forehead against hers. I don't know how to do this, he whispered. How to be in a relationship. how to be vulnerable, how to trust completely. We'll figure it out together. What if I mess it up? Then we'll fix it. Naomi smiled against his lips. That's what people who care about each other do. I care about you. He kissed her again, soft and sweet. So much it scares me. Good, she kissed him back. We can be scared together. They stayed on the dock until the sun was high, talking and kissing and dreaming about what could be. For the first time in years, Ethan looked young, hopeful, free, and Naomi felt like she'd found something she didn't know she was looking for. The next week was the happiest Naomi had ever known. Ethan stopped pretending to work through meals. He sat with her and Richard, engaging in conversation, telling stories from his childhood that made Richard beam with pride. They stole moments alone, a kiss in the garden while Richard napped, holding hands under the dinner table, late-night talks in the library where they shared dreams and fears. Naomi felt herself falling deeper every day. Clara noticed when they had dinner together on Naomi's day off. "You're glowing," her cousin said, pointing a fork at her. "Spill. Nothing to spill." "Liar. Is it the billionaire? Are you two—" "Maybe." Naomi couldn't fight her smile. "Oh my God, Naomi!" Clara grabbed her hands across the table. "Tell me everything." So she did. About the lake, the kiss, the way Ethan looked at her like she hung the moon, about Richard's joy and the feeling that maybe, just maybe, this could really work. "I'm happy for you," Clara said, "but also worried. These rich people, they live in a different world. What if his world doesn't have room for you?" "It does, he says it does. Words are easy, it's actions that matter." Clara squeezed her hands. "Just be careful, okay? Guard your heart a little bit." But Naomi was already too far gone to guard anything. That night she got a text from Ethan. "Are you home? Can I call?" She smiled and called him herself. "Hi," he answered on the first ring. "Hi yourself. I missed you today." His voice was warm, intimate. "The house felt empty without you. It was just one day too many." She heard him moving, a door closing. "I've been thinking. About? Us. The future." He paused. "I want you to know this isn't casual for me. What we have. It means something." Naomi's heart swelled. "It means something to me too." "Good." She could hear his smile. "Because I'm done hiding, done pretending. I want people to know you're with me, that we're together." "Are we? Together?" "If you want to be." "I do. Then we are. Simple as that. Naomi Carter, you're mine, and I'm yours. If you'll have me, I'll have you," she whispered. They talked for 2 more hours about nothing and everything. When Naomi finally hung up, she felt like she was floating. This was real. They were real. Nothing could ruin it. But on Wednesday, everything changed. Naomi arrived at the estate to find a strange car in the driveway. Expensive, red, flashy. Inside, voices echoed from the sitting room. One was Ethan's, the other was a woman's, high, sharp, laughing. Naomi's stomach tightened. She found Richard in the breakfast room frowning at his coffee. "Who's here?" she asked. "But Vanessa." Richard's voice was flat. "Ethan's ex-girlfriend. She just showed up unannounced." "Ex-girlfriend?" The words hit like a punch. "I didn't know he had an ex." "He doesn't talk about her. She was—" Richard sighed. "Wrong for him. Pushy. Materialistic. They dated for 6 months 3 years ago. She wanted a ring. He ended things. Why is she here now? Who knows? Nothing good, I suspect." Richard looked at Naomi with concern. "Don't let her get in your head. She's good at games." But when Naomi walked toward the sitting room, her confidence wavered. The woman standing too close to Ethan was stunning. Tall, thin, blonde, designer clothes. Perfect makeup. Everything Naomi wasn't. "So I just had to stop by," Vanessa was saying, her hand on Ethan's arm. "When I heard about your father's heart attack, I was so worried." Ethan stepped back from her touch. "That was over a month ago, Vanessa." "I know, but—" She spotted Naomi in the doorway. Her eyes went cold. "Oh, who's this?" "This is Naomi Carter." Ethan moved toward Naomi immediately. "She's my father's care assistant, and my girlfriend." Girlfriend. He'd said it so easily, so proudly. But Vanessa's smile turned sharp. "His girlfriend? How sweet." She looked Naomi up and down, taking in her simple jeans and sweater. "And she works for you. That's not complicated at all." "It's not complicated," Ethan said firmly. "Naomi, this is Vanessa, his ex." Vanessa held out a manicured hand. "Though calling me an ex is a bit of a stretch. We had a brief thing years ago, before Ethan knew what he really wanted." Naomi shook her hand briefly. "Nice to meet you." Vanessa turned back to Ethan. "So this is what you're into now, the help?" she laughed. That's unexpected. Vanessa. Ethan's voice went cold. You need to leave. I'm just being honest. You always appreciated honesty. She grabbed her purse from the couch. But fine, I can see I'm not welcome. Call me if you want to catch up properly. You know, without the audience. She walked past Naomi with a smirk. Good luck, honey. You'll need it. Ethan doesn't let anyone close for long. He'll get bored and you'll be gone. That's what he does. The front door closed behind her. Silence filled the room. I'm sorry. Ethan ran a hand through his hair. I didn't know she was coming. I haven't spoken to her in years. It's fine. It's not fine. She was rude to you. She was honest. Naomi's voice came out smaller than she wanted. I am the help, and your world is different from mine. That doesn't matter, doesn't it? Naomi looked around the sitting room, at the antique furniture, the paintings, the space that cost more than she'd earn in her lifetime. Ethan, look at this house. Look at your life. I'm a nursing aide who can barely pay rent. We're from completely different worlds. So what? That doesn't change how I feel. But what happens when your world meets mine? When your business partners meet me? When we go to events with people like Vanessa? Naomi's fears spilled out. What if you realize I don't fit? That I'm not enough? Stop saying that. Ethan grabbed her hands. You are enough. More than enough. You say that now. I'll say it forever if that's what it takes. But Vanessa's words echoed in Naomi's head. He'll get bored and you'll be gone. That evening, Clara came over with wine and ice cream. Tell me what happened, she demanded. So Naomi did. About Vanessa. About her fears. About feeling like she was playing pretend in a world where she didn't belong. Do you love him? Clara asked when she finished. Naomi's eyes filled with tears. Yes, I think I do. Does he love you? He says he does. Then trust that. Clara squeezed her shoulder. But also talk to him. Really talk. Tell him all these fears. What if voicing them makes them real? What if not voicing them destroys you from the inside? That night Naomi couldn't sleep. She kept seeing Vanessa's perfect face, her mocking smile, her certainty that Naomi wouldn't last. The next day at the estate, Ethan was in meetings all morning. Naomi helped Richard with his exercises, made his lunch, tried to act normal, but Richard saw through her. That woman upset you, he said as they walked in the garden. A little. Don't let her. She's nothing. She never understood Ethan, never cared about who he really was. Richard stopped walking, turning to face her. But you do. You see him. The real him. That's why he loves you. Tears burned Naomi's eyes. I'm scared, Richard. Scared I'm not enough for his world. His world needs more people like you. Real people. Kind people. People who care about more than money and status. Richard took her hands. Don't run from this, Naomi. From him. You're the best thing that's happened to this family in years. That afternoon, Naomi was in the library when she heard voices in the hall. Ethan and Adrian, his lawyer and friend. Just need to be careful, Adrian was saying. Dating an employee creates complications. Legally, professionally. She's not my employee, she's my father's care assistant. Still, people will talk. You know how this city is. Adrian paused. I'm not saying don't date her. I'm saying protect yourself and her. Have her sign an NDA, maybe a contract outlining. I'm not making Naomi sign anything. Ethan's voice was sharp. She's my girlfriend, not a business transaction. I'm just thinking about what's best. I know what's best. And it's her. She's what's best for me. Naomi's heart squeezed, but doubt still whispered in her mind. People will talk. Complications. Protect yourself. She wasn't part of Ethan's world. She was a complication. That evening, when Ethan found her in the sitting room, she was staring out the window at the darkening garden. Hey! He wrapped his arms around her from behind. I missed you today. Missed you too. He turned her to face him. What's wrong? And don't say nothing. I can see it in your eyes. I heard you and Adrian. About me being a complication. Ethan's jaw tightened. You're not. But I am. To his lawyer mind, I am. And maybe he's right. Naomi pulled away. Maybe this is too complicated. Too risky for both of us. Naomi, what if I get hurt, Ethan? What if your world chews me up and spits me out? What if... He kissed her, hard and desperate. When he pulled back, his eyes blazed. Stop. Stop running. Stop doubting. His hands framed her face. I love you, Naomi. I love you. Do you hear me? Her breath stopped. What? I love you. I'm in love with you. Completely, terrifyingly, undeniably. His voice shook. And I don't care what anyone says. I don't care about complications or contracts or what society thinks. I care about you, only you. Tears spilled down Naomi's cheeks. Ethan, say you love me too. Please, say it. I love you. The words burst out of her. I love you so much it scares me. Then be scared with me, but don't run. He kissed her again, soft and pleading. Promise me you won't run. I promise. But even as she said it, even as he held her, doubt still whispered. And 3 days later, that doubt exploded into disaster. Naomi was in the kitchen with Clara, who'd come to visit during her lunch break. They were laughing about something when Naomi's phone rang. Richard, wanting to know if she could pick up his prescription. Of course, Naomi told him. I'll get it now. After she hung up, Clara said, You really love them both, don't you? The father and the son. Richard is easy to love. He's like family. And Ethan? Ethan is... Naomi struggled for words. Everything, but also terrifying. His world is so big, so different from mine. Sometimes I wonder if I can really belong there. What does your heart say? My heart says yes, but my brain says I'm setting myself up to get hurt. Clara nodded. Just be careful. These rich men, they're not like us. They have power, options. When things get hard, they can just walk away. Later that evening, Ethan was in his study on a phone call when Naomi walked past. The door was cracked open. She heard her name. She stopped, knowing she shouldn't listen, but unable to walk away. Yes, I'm aware of the optics, Ethan was saying, but I'm not ending things with Naomi to make investors comfortable. She's important to me. A pause. I understand the concerns, but my personal life is my own. His voice hardened. Tell the board that if they have a problem with who I date, they can take it up with me directly. Naomi's heart swelled. He was defending her, fighting for her. She was about to walk away when she heard footsteps behind her. She turned to find Vanessa there, smirking. Eavesdropping? The woman said loudly. How classy. The study door opened. Ethan appeared, phone still in hand. He saw Naomi, then Vanessa. His expression darkened. Vanessa, what are you doing here? I came to see your father. We're old friends. She smiled sweetly. Though I found his little care assistant lurking outside your office instead. I wasn't lurking, Naomi said, but her voice sounded weak even to her own ears. Right, you just happened to be standing outside while Ethan talked about you on the phone. Vanessa's eyes glittered with malice. Tell me, Naomi, what exactly is your game? How much are you hoping to get from this family? That's enough. Ethan moved between them. Get out, Vanessa. Now. Oh, come on. You can't really believe she cares about you. Vanessa laughed. Hey, poor girl from the wrong side of town dating a billionaire. She's playing you, Ethan, and you're too blinded by whatever this is to see it. Out! Vanessa held up her hands. Fine, but when she shows her true colors, don't say I didn't warn you. She left, her heels clicking on the marble floor. Ethan turned to Naomi. I'm sorry. Again. I don't know how she keeps getting in here. She's right, though. Naomi's voice shook. People will always think that I'm with you for money, for status, that I'm playing some game. I don't think that, but everyone else will. Tears threatened. Your board, your business partners, people at events. They'll all look at me and see someone who doesn't belong, someone who's using you. I don't care what they think, but I do. The words exploded out of her. I care that I'll embarrass you, that I'll be judged constantly, that I'll never be good enough for your world. Ethan reached for her. Naomi, maybe we're moving too fast. She backed away. Maybe we need to slow down. Think about this more carefully. No. His voice turned cold, hard. The ice was back in his eyes. Don't do this. Don't let her win. This isn't about her. It's about us. About reality. The reality is that I love you. Isn't that enough? I don't know. The admission tore out of her. I don't know if love is enough when everything else is against us. Ethan stared at her. The hurt on his face made her chest ache. I see, he said quietly. You're looking for an excuse, a reason to run. That's not... It is. His jaw clenched. You're scared, so you're creating problems, looking for ways this won't work instead of believing it could. That's not fair. Nothing about this is fair. Ethan's control cracked. I've opened up to you, let you in, risked everything, and at the first real challenge, you're ready to bolt. I'm not. You are, just like I always knew people would. The ice in his eyes froze solid. I was right not to trust, right to keep my walls up, because in the end everyone leaves. His words stabbed like knives. Ethan, please, I think you should go. He turned away from her. Take the rest of the week off. I'll care for my father myself. Ethan, go! Naomi flinched. Tears poured down her face as she grabbed her bag and ran. She made it to her car before she broke down completely, sobbing so hard she could barely breathe. She'd done exactly what she'd promised not to do. She'd run, and she'd broken both their hearts in the process. 3 days felt like 3 years. Naomi went through the motions. She picked up catering shifts. She cleaned her apartment. She answered Clara's worried texts with, "I'm fine," but she wasn't fine. Every night she lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying that fight, seeing the hurt on Ethan's face, hearing his words. In the end, everyone leaves. She'd proved him right. After he'd finally opened up, finally trusted, she'd run at the first sign of trouble. "You need to eat something," Clara said on the 4th day. She'd brought groceries and wasn't taking no for an answer. "When was the last time you had a real meal?" "I'm not hungry." "I don't care." Clara pulled sandwich ingredients from a bag. "And you need to talk to him. He told me to leave. Because he was hurt. Because you hurt him." Clara's voice gentled. "Naomi, you love him. And he loves you. Don't let fear destroy that. What if his world really is too different? What if I can't handle it? What if you can?" Clara put a sandwich in front of her. "What if you're stronger than you think, braver than you feel? What if love is worth the risk?" Naomi picked at the bread. "I don't know how to fix this. Start by telling him the truth, all of it. Your fears, your doubts, everything." Clara sat across from her. "And then listen. Really listen to what he says." That night, Naomi almost called Ethan a dozen times, but each time fear stopped her. What if he didn't answer? What if he'd already moved on? What if the damage was too deep to repair? Her phone rang at 10 p.m. She grabbed it, hoping, but it was Richard's number. Her heart stopped. "Hello?" "Naomi." Richard's voice was weak, strained. "I need you to listen carefully. Don't panic. What's wrong? Are you okay?" "I'm fine. But Ethan is not." He paused, breathing hard. "He's been in his study for 3 days, won't eat, won't sleep properly, just works and broods." "Richard, he loves you. So much it's eating him alive." Richard's voice cracked. "But he's too proud to call you. Too scared you'll reject him again. So he's building his walls back up, brick by brick, and if someone doesn't stop him, he'll lock himself away forever." Tears streamed down Naomi's face. "I don't know what to say." "Don't say anything to me. Say it to him." Richard coughed. "Please, Naomi, I'm an old man. I don't have forever. And I want to see my son happy before I go. You make him happy. You make him human again. What if he won't listen?" "He will. Because underneath all that ice, he's desperate for you to fight for him." Richard's voice turned fierce. "So fight. Even if you're scared. Even if it's hard. Choose him anyway." After they hung up, Naomi sat on her couch, shaking. Choose him anyway. She thought about Ethan's face when he'd first said he loved her. The vulnerability in his eyes. The way he'd defended her to Adrian, to the board, to everyone who questioned them. He'd fought for her. Over and over. Now it was her turn to fight for him. The storm rolled in around midnight. Thunder shook the windows. Rain pounded the streets. Lightning split the sky. Naomi stood at her window watching, thinking about Ethan alone in that huge house, thinking about all the things she should have said, all the ways she should have been braver. A knock at her door made her jump. She wasn't expecting anyone. Definitely not at midnight during a storm. Another knock, harder. Naomi checked the peephole and her heart stopped. Ethan stood in the hallway, soaked to the skin, hair plastered to his head, shirt clinging to his chest, water dripping on her doormat. She yanked the door open. "What are you—" "I'm sorry." The words tumbled out. "I'm sorry for pushing you away, for being cold, for making you feel like you had to be perfect." "Ethan, you're drenched." "I don't care." He stepped inside, leaving puddles. "I've been sitting in my study for 3 days trying to convince myself I was right, that pushing you away was protecting myself, but I was lying. Come in. Let me get you a towel." "I don't need a towel. I need you to listen." His eyes were wild, desperate. "I love you, Naomi. I'm in love with you, and I know my world is complicated and scary. I know there will be people like Vanessa who judge you, who question us. Ethan, but I don't care about them. I care about you. Only you." He moved closer, water still dripping from his hair. "And if you need me to prove it, I will. I'll quit the company, sell the house, walk away from everything if that's what it takes to make you believe we can work. You can't do that." "I can. I will." His hands found her face, wet and cold, but gentle. "Because nothing matters without you. Not the money, not the business, not any of it. You're what matters. You're everything." Naomi's tears mixed with the rain on his fingers. "I'm scared. I know, so am I. his forehead pressed against hers. "But I'd rather be scared with you than safe and alone. I'd rather risk my heart and lose than never risk it at all." "I'm sorry," the words burst out. "I'm sorry I ran. I'm sorry I let fear win. I'm sorry." He kissed her, deep and desperate and full of everything words couldn't say. When they pulled apart, both breathing hard, Naomi whispered, "I love you. I love you so much. I was just so afraid of not being enough." "You are enough." He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips. "You're more than enough. You're perfect. You're mine. If you'll have me, I'll have you." She smiled through her tears. "Walls and all, fear and all. I'll have all of you, even the broken parts, especially the broken parts." He pulled her close, holding her like he'd never let go. They stood in her tiny apartment, water pooling around them, and it felt like coming home. "We need to talk," Naomi said eventually. "Really talk. About everything." "I know." Ethan didn't let go. "But first, can we just be for a minute?" So they did. They stood holding each other while the storm raged outside. Two people who'd been alone too long, finally finding each other. Finally, Naomi pulled back. "You're freezing. Let me get you dry clothes." "I didn't bring any. I have sweats that might fit." She led him to her bedroom, trying not to think about how surreal this was. Ethan Ward, billionaire, in her tiny apartment wearing her ex-boyfriend's old sweatpants. He changed in the bathroom while she made tea. When he emerged, the sweatpants were too short and the t-shirt was too tight, but he'd never looked better to her. They sat on her couch, mugs warming their hands. "Tell me your fears," Ethan said. "All of them. Don't hold back." So Naomi did. She told him about feeling inadequate, about worrying his world would reject her, about being afraid he'd wake up one day and realize she wasn't special enough, pretty enough, wealthy enough. "And I'm terrified," she finished, "that people will always see me as the poor girl who got lucky, that they'll think I'm using you, that you'll start believing it too." Ethan set down his mug and took her hands. "Can I tell you what I see when I look at you?" She nodded. "I see the woman who saved my father's life without thinking twice, who refused money because she wanted connection, not transaction, who made an old man laugh again, who brought light back into a house that had been dark for years." His voice roughened. "I see someone brave and kind and real, someone who challenges me to be better, someone who sees past my money and my walls to the person underneath. But what about the people who won't see that? Then they don't matter." He said it so simply. "Naomi, there will always be people who judge, who gossip, who try to tear us down, but they don't get a vote in our relationship. Only we do. What if I embarrass you?" "Impossible. You could never embarrass me." He cupped her face. "You make me proud. The way you care for people, the way you see the world, the way you love without holding back. That's who you are, and that's who I love." Fresh tears spilled down Naomi's cheeks. "I want to believe that." "Then believe it. And when you forget, I'll remind you every single day if I have to." They talked until 3 in the morning, about his fears too, of losing people he loves, of not being enough without his wealth, of his walls going back up when things got hard. "I need you to call me out," he said. "When I get cold, when I retreat, when I let work consume me, I need you to pull me back. I can do that. And I need to know that when things get tough, you'll stay, you'll fight. You won't run." He looked at her intently. "Because I'm all in, Naomi, completely, and I need to know you are too." "I am." She laced her fingers through his. "I'm all in. I'm terrified, but I'm all in." "Good." He smiled, that rare, beautiful smile that transformed his whole face. "Because I'm not letting you go. Ever. That's a long time. Not long enough." He stayed that night, holding her while she slept. And for the first time in days, Naomi felt peace. The next morning they drove to the estate together. Richard was in the breakfast room pretending to read a newspaper, but his eyes lit up when they walked in hand in hand. "You two figured it out." It wasn't a question. "We did." Ethan pulled out Naomi's chair, then sat beside her instead of across the table. "Thank God." Richard set down his paper. "I was about to lock you both in a room until you worked it out." Naomi laughed. "It almost came to that." They had breakfast together, all 3 of them, talking, laughing, planning Richard's continued recovery. Afterward, Ethan pulled Naomi aside. "Walk with me?" They went to the lake, to their spot on the dock. "I've been thinking," Ethan said as they sat, "about what you said, about my world being different from yours." "Ethan, we talked about this. Let me finish." He turned to face her. "You're right. My world is different. It's formal and complicated and sometimes cold, but it doesn't have to stay that way." "What do you mean?" I mean, I want to change it, make it warmer, more real, more like you. He took her hands. I've been living in my father's shadow, running his company his way. But maybe it's time I do things my way, build something that reflects who I really am. You'd do that. I'd do anything for you. For us? He kissed her knuckles. And maybe you could help me, not as my employee, as my partner. You have insights into people, into what matters. I want your voice in decisions, your perspective. Ethan, I don't know anything about business, but you know about people, about compassion, about what really matters. He smiled. Besides, I'm not asking you to run the company. I'm asking you to help me remember why it exists, to keep me grounded. Naomi's heart swelled. I can do that. Good. He stood, pulling her up with him. Because I have something else to ask you. He walked to the edge of the dock, staring out at the water. Then he turned back to her and dropped to one knee. Naomi's breath stopped. Ethan, I'm not proposing. Not yet. His eyes were bright, intense. But I'm making a promise. I choose you, Naomi Carter. I choose us. I choose this. Every day for the rest of my life, I will choose you. Tears streamed down her face. I choose you too. He stood and kissed her, deep and sweet and full of promise. When I do propose, he murmured against her lips, it'll be bigger than this, more romantic, with a ring and flowers and everything you deserve. I don't need big or romantic. I just need you. You'll get both, he grinned, because I'm going to spend the rest of my life giving you everything, starting now. The next few weeks were a blur of happiness. Naomi officially moved into the estate, not as Richard's care assistant, but as Ethan's partner, her partner in every sense. She kept her nursing certification current, though, kept helping Richard with his recovery, but now it was out of love, not obligation. Richard's health improved steadily. Color returned to his cheeks, strength to his limbs. He walked farther each day, laughed more, told longer stories. You two saved me, he told them one evening at dinner. Naomi saved my body. Ethan saved my hope. Together, you gave me a reason to keep fighting. Ethan reached across the table, squeezing his father's hand. The gesture was natural now, easy. The walls between them had crumbled. Naomi met Ethan's business partners. Some were welcoming, some were skeptical. She didn't care. She stayed true to herself, kind, genuine, unimpressed by wealth or status. And slowly, she won them over. You're good for him, Adrian told her one afternoon. He smiles now, takes breaks, actually seems happy. I wasn't sure he was capable of happy anymore. He was always capable. He just needed a reason. You're that reason. Adrian smiled. Don't let him mess it up. I won't. And neither will he. Clara visited often, bringing homemade food and loud laughter. She and Richard became fast friends, bonding over embarrassing stories about Naomi and Ethan. I like your cousin, Richard told Naomi. She's got spirit. Reminds me of my late wife. She'd be honored by that comparison. One evening, Ethan surprised Naomi by taking her to the community center where she used to volunteer. What are we doing here? She asked as they walked in. You'll see. Inside, the director was waiting, and beside her was a giant check. Mr. Ward has donated $500,000 to the center, the director said, tears in her eyes, for a new medical training wing, to teach people in the community CPR, first aid, basic healthcare. He's calling it the Naomi Carter Health Education Center. Naomi's knees went weak. Ethan, you said you wanted to make a difference, he said softly. This will help you do that. Train people the way you were trained. Give them skills to save lives like you saved my father's. She threw her arms around him, crying and laughing at the same time. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, he whispered into her hair, for teaching me that money has meaning when it's used for good, for showing me how to give back, for making me want to be better. That night, as they drove home to the estate that now felt like hers too, Naomi felt complete. Happy? Ethan asked, glancing over at her. So happy I'm scared. Don't be scared. He took her hand. We've got this. We've got each other. That's all we need. And for the first time, Naomi truly believed it. 3 months later, the estate hosted a small gathering, just close friends and family. Clara and her husband, Adrian and his wife, Maria and the rest of the staff, because they were family too. A few of Ethan's closest business associates who'd become genuine friends. Richard sat in his favorite chair by the fireplace, looking stronger than he had in months. His doctor had been amazed by his recovery, called it remarkable, but Richard knew the truth. Love had healed him more than medicine ever could. Naomi wore a simple blue dress, her favorite color. Ethan stood beside her in dark slacks and a white shirt. No tie, casual, comfortable, happy. "Speech!" Clara called out, raising her wine glass. Richard laughed. "Let the old man talk." He pushed himself up from his chair, waving off Ethan's concerned look. "I'm fine. Better than fine." He raised his own glass. 3 months ago I collapsed at a gala. I thought it was the end, but it was actually the beginning. His eyes found Naomi. This remarkable woman saved my life. But she did more than that. She saved my family. Naomi's throat tightened. She brought my son back from a very cold, lonely place. She brought laughter into this house, light, hope. Richard's voice roughened. She taught us both that love is worth the risk, that opening your heart doesn't make you weak, it makes you human. He looked at Ethan. "Son, I've never been more proud of you than I am right now. Not because of your business success, not because of your wealth, but because you chose love. You chose bravery. You chose her." Ethan's arm tightened around Naomi's waist. "So here's to Naomi and Ethan." Richard raised his glass higher. "May your love continue to grow. May your walls stay down. And may you always remember that the best things in life can't be bought. They can only be chosen." "Hear, hear." The room echoed with agreement. After the toast, as guests mingled and laughed, Ethan pulled Naomi aside. "Come with me. I have something to show you." They walked out to the garden. Evening was falling, soft and golden. Fireflies danced in the growing dusk. On the path to the lake, rose petals were scattered. Candles in glass jars lined the way. Naomi's heart started to race. "Ethan, keep walking." They reached the dock. More candles, more petals. And at the end, overlooking the water, a blanket spread with cushions. Ethan turned to face her. His eyes were bright with emotion. 3 months ago, you stood on this dock and told me you'd have me. Walls and all, fear and all. His voice was steady but thick with feeling. You've kept that promise every single day. Through my bad moods, my moments of retreat, my struggles to stay open. You've been patient, loving, real. Ethan, let me finish. He smiled. I've learned so much from you. About kindness, about courage, about what really matters. He took both her hands. And I've learned that I don't want to spend another day without you being officially, completely, permanently mine. He dropped to one knee. Naomi's breath caught, tears already streaming. "Naomi Carter." He pulled a small box from his pocket. "You didn't just save my father that night. You saved me from loneliness, from fear, from a life half lived behind walls." He opened the box. The ring inside was simple but stunning. A single diamond, elegant and perfect. "Will you marry me? Will you be my wife, my partner, my forever? Will you let me spend the rest of my life choosing you?" "Yes." The word burst out. "Yes, yes, yes." He stood, slipping the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. Then he kissed her, deep and sweet, while fireflies danced around them and the lake reflected the golden sky. When they finally pulled apart, both laughing and crying, Naomi whispered, "I love you. I love you too." He rested his forehead against hers. "Thank you." "For what?" "For not giving up on me, for fighting for us, for teaching me that the best things in life are worth the risk." He pulled back, cupping her face. "For choosing me too. Every day," she promised, "for the rest of our lives." From the garden, they heard cheering. The guests had followed them, Richard in the lead, beaming with joy. "She said yes," Ethan called out. More cheering. Clara ran down the path to hug Naomi. Richard embraced his son, both men's eyes wet with happy tears. "My boy's getting married," Richard said, his voice breaking. "I get to see my boy get married. Because of her." Ethan looked at Naomi across the crowd of celebrating friends. "Because she fought for us. Because she was brave when I was scared." "No," Richard shook his head. "You were both brave. That's what love is. Choosing each other, again and again, especially when it's hard." That night, after the guests had left and Richard had gone to bed, Naomi and Ethan stood on the terrace overlooking the garden. "Happy?" he asked. "Beyond happy. I didn't know life could feel like this." "Like what?" "Complete. Like all the broken pieces finally fit together." She leaned into him. "Like I found exactly where I belong." "You belong here." He kissed the top of her head. "With me. With us. Forever." They stood in comfortable silence, watching the stars come out. "Can I tell you something?" Ethan said quietly. "Anything. I used to think strength meant never needing anyone, keeping walls up, staying in control." He turned her to face him. "But you taught me that real strength is vulnerability, letting someone in, choosing love even when it's terrifying. You taught me things too." "Like what?" "That I'm worthy of being chosen, that my voice matters, that love doesn't mean losing yourself, it means finding yourself with someone else." She smiled up at him. "That the right person makes you more you, not less." "You make me more me," he said. "The best version of me, the version I always wanted to be but didn't know how. We'll figure it out together." "Together," he agreed, "always together." 6 months later, they married in the garden overlooking the lake. Small ceremony, close friends and family only, nothing flashy, nothing formal, just two people promising to choose each other, every day for the rest of their lives. Richard walked Naomi down the aisle, tears streaming down his face. "Your father would be so proud," he whispered, "but not as proud as I am." When Naomi reached Ethan, he was crying too. Unashamed, vulnerable, real. They spoke their vows with voices that shook with emotion. They promised to be brave, to stay open, to fight for each other when things got hard. "I choose you," Ethan said, his voice breaking. "Today, tomorrow, forever. I choose you." "I choose you too," Naomi whispered. "All of you, for all of my life." When they kissed, the small crowd cheered, and for a moment the world was perfect. The reception was held on the lawn, music played, people danced. Laughter filled the air. Richard gave a toast that had everyone crying and laughing. Clara told embarrassing stories about Naomi as a kid. Adrian admitted he'd never seen Ethan smile until Naomi came along. As the sun set, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink, Ethan pulled Naomi onto the dance floor. "Mrs. Ward," he murmured as they swayed together. "How does it feel?" "Like coming home," she said. "Like everything before was just leading to this moment. Best moment of my life." "Mine too." He pulled back to look at her. "You know what the second best moment was?" "What?" "That night at the gala, when I opened my eyes and saw your face, when I realized I was alive." His voice dropped. "I didn't know it then, but that was the moment everything changed. That was the moment you saved me." Naomi's eyes filled. "I think we saved each other." "Yeah," he smiled, that beautiful, warm smile that still took her breath away. "Yeah, we did." They danced until the stars came out, until the music stopped, until it was just the two of them under the night sky. "Ready to start our forever?" Ethan asked. "I'm ready." Naomi took his hand. "Let's go home." And they did. Together. Just as they'd face everything else life brought. Together. Always together. Because they'd learned the most important lesson of all. That love isn't about being perfect. It's about being real. About choosing each other. Especially when it's hard. About building something beautiful from two broken hearts. And their love would last. Through every challenge. Every joy. Every moment of doubt and fear and wonder. Because they'd fought for it. Risked everything for it. Chosen it over safety and pride. And that made all the difference. 1 year later, Naomi sat in Richard's favorite chair by the fireplace, his hand in hers. He was weaker now. The doctor said his time was limited, but he was at peace. "Tell me again," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "About the baby." Naomi smiled, her free hand resting on her barely there belly. "Ethan and I are having a baby. You're going to be a grandfather." Richard's eyes shone with tears. "A grandfather? I never thought." He squeezed her hand weakly. "You've given me everything. A son who loves, a daughter I always wanted, and now a grandchild to carry on. We're naming him Richard," Naomi said softly. "If it's a boy, we want him to know about the man who brought us together. I didn't bring you together. You found each other. I just nudged a little." He smiled. "Best nudging I ever did." Ethan appeared in the doorway. When he saw them, his face softened with love. He crossed the room, kneeling beside his father's chair. "Hey, Dad." "Hey, son." Richard's hand found Ethan's. "You're happy?" "Ridiculously happy." "Good. That's all I ever wanted for you. Happiness, love, a life worth living." Richard looked between them both. "You two gave me that this last year, best year of my life. Getting to see you both like this, together, in love, building a family." "Dad," Ethan's voice cracked. "It's okay." Richard's smile was peaceful. "I'm ready. I got to see you find love, fall in love, get married. I'm going to meet my grandchild." His eyes drifted closed. "That's more than most men get. I'm grateful." Naomi and Ethan sat with him, holding his hands as evening fell. And when Richard Ward took his last breath, he was surrounded by love, just as he'd wanted, just as he deserved. 5 years later, Naomi stood in the garden, watching her 3-year-old son chase butterflies. Richard Ethan Ward, Richie for short, had his grandfather's warm eyes and his father's stubborn chin. "Mama, look!" He pointed at a butterfly landing on a rose. "Like Grandpa's flowers." "Just like them," Naomi agreed, her heart full. Arms wrapped around her from behind. Ethan rested his chin on her shoulder. "He's getting so big," he murmured. "Too big, too fast. Tell him to slow down for us." Naomi laughed. "I don't think it works that way." They stood together, watching their son play in the garden that Richard had loved, the garden that had been the backdrop for so many important moments in their lives. "You know what I was thinking about?" Ethan asked. "What?" "That night at the gala, when you ran toward my father while everyone else froze." He turned her to face him. "You were so brave, so quick, so sure. I was terrified, but you did it anyway. That's what courage is." He kissed her forehead. "You didn't just save my father that night. You saved me too, from a life of loneliness, from walls and ice and fear." "We saved each other," Naomi said, the same words from years ago. Still true, always true. "Yeah." His arms tightened around her. "Yeah, we did." "Daddy!" Richie ran over, a dandelion clutched in his chubby fist. "For Mama." "For me?" Naomi took the flower like it was made of gold. "Thank you, baby." "Grandpa used to give flowers," Richie said seriously, "to Grandma in heaven. Now I give them to you." Tears stung Naomi's eyes. They'd told Richie stories about his grandfather, about his great love for his wife, his kindness, his warmth. "Grandpa would be proud of you," Ethan said, lifting his son into his arms. "He'd be so proud of all of us." That evening, after Richie was asleep, Naomi and Ethan stood on the terrace where they'd stood so many times before. "Do you ever think about that first day?" Naomi asked. "When you accused me in the hospital?" "Every day." Ethan's voice was rueful. "I was such an idiot." "You were scared." "I was a scared idiot." He pulled her close. "Thank God you didn't give up on me. Thank God you were brave enough to stay, to fight. Thank God you were brave enough to let me in." They stood in comfortable silence, the kind that only comes from years of knowing someone completely, of choosing them over and over. "You know what the best part is?" Ethan said eventually. "What?" "We get to keep doing this every day for the rest of our lives, choosing each other, building our family, making memories." He looked at her, his eyes soft with love, growing old together. "That is the best part. I love you, Naomi Ward." "I love you too, Ethan Ward." She smiled up at him. "Thanks for crashing into my life at that gala. Thanks for saving my father, and for saving me." He kissed her, soft and sweet and full of promise. "You really did, you know, save me." "We saved each other," she said again, because it would always be true. They saved each other, from loneliness, from fear, from half-lived lives behind walls. They saved each other with courage, with trust, with love, and they lived happily. Not perfectly, because life is never perfect, but happily, together, always together, just as they'd promised, just as they'd chosen forever. The end.